What's going on, everybody? Kalipis Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a quick comparison between the BLU F92e 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G. Now, as always, if you do end up wanting to learn more about either phone individually, be sure to check out the description, where I will be linking to several other videos about each of them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. So with the BLU F92e 5G, we're getting a 6.5-inch IPS LCD display with a 720p resolution, a PPI of 270, and a 20:9 aspect ratio. With the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G, we're getting a 6.4-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED display. This phone has a 1080p resolution, a PPI of 403, and a 19.5:9 aspect ratio. So on one hand, the BLU F92e 5G has an ever so slight advantage when it comes to size and dimensions. At 6.5 inches versus 6.4, it's a little bit larger, and with the 20:9 aspect ratio versus 19.5:9, it has a slightly taller and more narrow form factor, but honestly the difference isn't really that significant, especially when considering the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G has much better image quality. With the 1080p resolution versus, again, only 720p, things are going to be a lot sharper with the A54 5G, and with the Super AMOLED display, it looks and feels quite a bit more premium. I mean, the colors and brightness are a lot better, and the viewing angles are better too. So if you're outside in the sun, for example, the A54 5G is going to be a lot easier to see. And then with the 120Hz refresh rate, the movement on the screen is a bit faster and smoother, making the phone feel more premium to use. So in general, if you're doing more basic activities like reading, web browsing, maybe some light social media and watching the occasional video every now and then, the BLU F92e 5G will get the job done. But if you're consuming a lot of content like watching videos or something where the image quality is a bit more important, between the two, the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G is definitely the better choice here. Now for storage, both phones have 128GB of internal storage with microSD card expansion, so no difference here, but definitely a great amount of storage. For the average user, this will be plenty of space. And then for security features, both phones have Face Unlock and they both have fingerprint scanners. With the BLU F92e 5G, it's right here on the power key. And with the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G, it's in the display. But starting with the BLU F92e 5G, let's give them a try. There we go, one more time. And there we go. And now for the A54. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So as you can see, both fingerprint scanners worked real well, no issues at all. And again, both phones do have Face Unlock too, so if you want to use that instead, you always can. For the cameras, with the BLU F92e 5G, up front, we got a 13 megapixel selfie camera, got that water drop notch there. Then on the back, we got a triple camera setup with the 50 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 0.3 megapixel depth sensing camera. With the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G, we got a 32 megapixel selfie camera. Then on the back, we got a triple camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. So in general, both phones do have pretty good camera setups, but the A54 5G is significantly better. First of all, this phone does have an ultra wide camera, whereas with the BLU F92e 5G, although BLU's website says it does have an ultra-wide camera, when I actually open the camera app and go where the ultra-wide camera is supposed to be, so with any phone that has an ultra-wide camera, there's usually either a dedicated button or if you just tap on this, but as you can see, it's not doing anything. Whereas with the A54 5G, if we open the camera, as you can see, the 0.5 is right here, and now we can fit a lot more in the frame. So the point is, the ultra-wide camera with the A54 is at least accessible, whereas with the BLU F92e 5G, I'm pretty sure for whatever reason it's just not there, but even if it is, it's definitely not user-friendly at all. So if you do want to get those wider angle photos, I would definitely recommend going with the A54 5G. And then when it comes to photo quality, the A54 5G is also significantly better there too. Now, don't get me wrong, the BLU F92e 5G does take some pretty good pictures, especially considering this is like a $150 phone. But if you're really using your camera all the time, then between the two, the A54 5G is still quite a bit better. To give you an idea of what they can do, first, here's some pictures taken with the BLU F92e 5G. Definitely good pictures, not bad at all, and for the average user, maybe you want to get a couple nice photos here and there, and you do want things to be presentable, but you still don't need super good quality or anything. For that kind of use, the BLU F92e 5G will get the job done just fine. And then here are some pictures taken with the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G. And again, I would say there is a significant difference in quality here. On one hand, the BLU F92e 5G does get the job done, but on the other hand, if you really want some super nice looking photos, I do think you will be much happier with the A54 5G. And for video, it's pretty much the same thing. On one hand, with the BLU F92e 5G, this phone has a max recording quality of 2K in the rear camera and 1080p in the front, whereas with the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G, this phone can record in up to 4K in the rear and front cameras. So overall, if you're recording a lot of videos and you really want good quality, the A54 5G will have an advantage, but keep in mind, being able to record in 2K is still I guess, a nice thing, and in general, in my experience, the video quality with the F92e 5G is still pretty good. So again, if you're a more casual user, the quality we're getting here is still going to be at least good enough. Now when it comes to RAM and processor, with the BLU F92e 5G, we're getting 4GB of RAM with the MediaTek Dimensity 700 processor. With the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G, this phone has 6GB of RAM with the Exynos 1380. Now between the two, I will definitely say the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G is significantly faster by quite a bit too. So if you're going to be on your phone a lot, especially doing maybe some more demanding activities like mobile gaming, the A54 5G will be a much better choice. When you're doing basic activities, you're going to get a nicer, smoother experience. And when you're doing higher end activities, like, again, mobile gaming and stuff like that, things are going to run quite a bit better here. On the other hand, with the BLU F92e 5G, this phone isn't really slow, and for more basic activities, it will still get the job done. But again, if you're going to be on your phone a lot, you will notice it's not the fastest. So if you are in that situation, you might want to go with the A54 5G instead. Now I did run a benchmark test on each phone using Geekbench 6, and here are the results I got. So again, as you can see, definitely a pretty big difference here. The Samsung Galaxy A54 5G is quite a bit faster. So again, if you do want the faster phone between the two, then it's a pretty clear choice here. But remember, the BLU F92e 5G, while not being nearly as fast, is still going to be perfectly fine for more basic activities. So if your needs aren't really that complex, then I would say this phone will get the job done just fine. Now both phones have 5000 mAh batteries, with the BLU F92e 5G supporting 10W fast charging, and the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G supporting 25. So definitely a difference here. The A54 5G will obviously charge noticeably faster, but at the same time, with the F92e 5G, the charging speed isn't terrible, so if you don't really care that much about charging speeds, then this is probably not a big deal. And then with 5000 mAh batteries, both phones are going to have great battery life, so if that's important to you, you won't go wrong with either phone here. And then of course, down the road, as the batteries degrade, which all batteries do, the batteries in these phones are not going to wear out nearly as quickly compared to something like a 3000 mAh battery. So if you like to get one phone and keep it for a longer time without replacing it, then either phone is going to be great for that too. For the software, with the BLU F92e 5G, this phone does have Android 12, and the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G does have Android 13. And also keep in mind, BLU really doesn't have the best software support, so while it's possible that this phone will eventually get Android 13, I'm really not counting on it. So if you do get this phone, I would probably just assume you're going to be stuck on Android 12 as long as you have it. On the other hand, with the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G, not only does it come with Android 13, but with Samsung software support, you can also expect several other major updates in the future. So in general, honestly, between the two, BLU really has some of the worst software support, whereas Samsung has some of the best. So if you really care about software, I would definitely go with the Samsung, but otherwise, Android 12 really isn't that bad. So if you don't really care that much, the BLU F92e 5G is still perfectly fine. Something else to keep in mind here is that with the BLU F92e 5G, unfortunately this phone does not have NFC, so you won't be able to use tap and pay with it, but the A54 5G at least does. So if you do like to use tap and pay a lot, I would definitely go with the Samsung. But on the other hand, the A54 5G does not have a headphone jack, whereas the BLU F92e 5G does. So if you like to use wired headphones, this is definitely something to keep in mind too. But in conclusion, which of these phones is better? Overall, in pretty much every way, the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G is a much better device, and this is probably no surprise considering the BLU F92e 5G retails for $149, and the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G is going for like $449. So yeah, very obviously, the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G with a much nicer looking display, a better camera that can record 4K videos, significantly faster performance, better fast charging, better software support, and NFC is definitely a much better phone. But on the other hand, consider the price difference. With the BLU F92e 5G, yeah, this phone doesn't have the best looking display, it doesn't have the greatest camera, it's not super fast, it doesn't have NFC, and it doesn't have Android 13 either, but it's a $149 phone, so it's super affordable. It does get the job done when it comes to performance. I mean, if you're doing basic activities, you will get a pretty good experience. It also takes decent photos, has a ton of storage with 128GB, and it has a really large battery. So if you really need something basic that works, and you don't want to spend a ton of money on your phone, then the BLU F92e 5G is still going to be a perfectly fine choice. But with the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G, I feel like you're really getting quite a bit for what you're paying. So if you do want to maximize the features and value you get for the money, and you don't really mind paying a bit more, the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G is definitely a great choice too. But this concludes my comparison between the BLU F92e 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G. Again, if you want to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description where I am linking to several other videos about each of them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalipis Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.